Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Emilio will be joining me here shortly. Surprise, surprise, he's eating. I know, big shocker there. But appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. I know the chat's already on fire as we've got an awesome show for you guys and gals. We're going to hit on some potential trades at the deadline here. And the deadline, of course, being the roster cut deadline, the 53-man roster deadline. And listen, we're not going to get into this shock jock type sports talk and go, I think this guy will be traded, I think that guy will be traded. We're going to simply lay out, here are some of the folks that it would make sense to move on from if you feel good about the players behind them. And we'll kind of break it down and see if we can come to an answer as a group. We're going to hit that. And also, honestly, it'll also kind of tie into the camp battle talk, the position battle talk as you get closer to the 53-man roster cut down. So I'm really excited about this conversation. We're going to try to include the chat as much as we can, especially once Emilio gets in here. So that's what we're going to cover first. Let's do this, guys. Do that YouTube stuff for us. Hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your evening. Listen, we're not experts here. We're not insiders. We're not media members. What we are fans just like you in here talking Packers on the daily. We're doing pregame shows, postgame shows, film breakdown, the whole 9 yards. So if you're looking for that type of content, feel free to hit subscribe and click that bell icon so you're notified every time we do go live. We got Emilio joining us now. Emilio, I need to know, man, what was for dinner, dude? Just go ahead and say it.
I had that slice of that New York slice. You know, Sbarro. No, it's a place in town called Jaboni's, but close enough. It's not perfect, but it'll do.
You never go wrong with pizza, man. That's for sure, dude.
Seriously.
No doubt about that. I want to give a shout out to Bates. Just gifted 10 Packer Fan Total Access memberships. Thank you so much, Bates, for that. And that's 10 just random members here in the chat tonight that will be entered into the giveaway for the autographed Lucas Van Ness card, rookie card, that we're going to be giving away this weekend, probably during the post-game show immediately following the Packers-Seahawks game. So if you want to get yourself entered into that giveaway, the best way to do it is join our Patreon community, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. You get access to everything on the site for $3, and you also get entered into the giveaways. I just mailed off 6 cards, 6 autographed cards, all donated by Rick Kruger, a great friend of the show here. And those should be arriving here any day to all of the winners from last month. So again, if you have to choose between YouTube and Patreon, Patreon's the way to go. You get more bang for your buck. But if you're not familiar with Patreon, you just want to join on YouTube, that's what Bates just gifted here to 10 lucky members. Yeah. Bates, we appreciate you, man.
Or if you just want to hang around in the chat long enough, you might get lucky and get a little dono from somebody. But especially, I'm waiting for it to drop onto somebody that probably is just watching the stream, trying to get some info, and then you kind of get that little surprise when they get that membership,
Absolutely. Speaking of surprises, man, I pulled up this oldie but a goodie earlier today. I just put out a tweet and said the NFL better pray Elton Jenkins is healthy so they don't have to face this guy at center. Look at my man right here. You kidding me? Look at that dude right there, dude. Is that not a spitting image of Nacho Libre? Seriously?
Honestly, if that's not his Halloween costume already planned, I mean, he's probably already done it, honestly. But that's a spitting image. Get him a cross on his neck, and he's good.
Good to go. Good to go. I just want to see him in a post game celebration in the locker room wearing the mask. You know what I mean? The Nacho Libre sewn together mask. So. And
that's just another fun thing. I mean, that's something you literally can just laugh about in the locker room. Like there's still guys just cutting it up at the end of the day like we are. It's not like it's something crazy. They like jokes too.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, man, I want to say this about Sean Rhyan. His first year, I want to say, was it his first year he got suspended for the banned substance or whatever?
And then I think the second year he came in a little thick.
Yeah, second year he came in a little overweight. LaFleur called him out on that. And this dude, man, he has kind of taken the opportunity since then and ran with it. I mean, I feel like he's been a solid contributor for the Packers. He hasn't been, all pro or anything like that, obviously, but he's a guy that in a pinch, he can start at guard. and played, I feel like, pretty damn well. I didn't look at Sean Rhyan last year and ever think, man, he's a liability. There was a couple of times we seen him 30 yards down the field pulling, as a pulling guard and looking to peel some caps. So I'm glad he's a Packer. And now the fact that he's increased his value as a backup center, when his contract does expire, that's a guy that will probably go to another team, and there'll be a little extra added value when they put on the resume, hey, we can play center too in a pinch. That's a huge, huge thing. So.
And you know what? Looking at him just as a player in general, it really is kind of what DJ and Buck have been hitting on a lot is how much do you love the game? How much do you really care about the game? And how much does that drive you? Coming from where he started with, the banned substance, being a little overweight and still putting his head down and doing it because he loves playing the game. That's why he's in here. That's why he's gotten to this point. And if we get Libre out there, man, we're good.
All right, man, let's move along to the topic tonight, Emilio. And I've already had people in the chat, earlier today on Twitter too, talking about, potential trades, this and that. I want to be very, very clear. I want to put this disclaimer out there. In no way, shape, or form are we saying these guys are going to get traded. You're going to know by the end of this show whether or not we think it would be worth exploring or not, which, in my opinion, anyone on the last year of their contract is worth exploring a trade. If you get maximum value back, that's awesome. If you don't plan on extending them, if you let them walk, of course, you're going to take the chance of getting a comp pick as well. So, but these are just some players that, spoiler alert, I think the large majority, if not all these players, Emilio, I would probably be saying I would rather have them on the roster this year because they're a key contributor to the Packers. However, we're going to kind of make the case as well for potentially trade. And so let's start with the first one here, okay? Romeo Doubs. Keep in mind, per his camp earlier this year, right, he was offered in an attempt to acquire wide receiver DK Metcalf. Now, if you're going, how do you know that, Clayton? I think it was Justice Mosquito, if I'm saying that name right, had said that Romeo Doubs' camp shared the information that he was included in a trade package for DK Metcalf. That's the way I understood that reporting. Several people tagged me in the tweets, and it actually came from Justice's, his actual Twitter, his actual mouth, to be honest with you. I think he was on with Andy Herman talking about this. So anyone who says, they'd never trade Romeo Doubs, it's kind of common knowledge they already tried to, okay? At least that's
or at least thought about it, potentially.
Exactly. So rumors are beginning to swirl again as we inch closer to the roster cut down deadline. Now, whether you believe NFL rumors or not, that's cool. I understand if you're skeptical. I got you. There's no source here. They got damn near 400,000 followers. I think they just grab rumors on Twitter and try to find a reasonable account that's mentioning this stuff, and they talk about it, right? But this was a tweet, I guess, roughly 20 hours ago, right? NFL rumors. Wide receiver Romeo Doubs could be a cut candidate after the preseason or a trade. Okay, so again, he was already shopped around. Now, if you search Romeo Doubs on X right now, there are several people that are saying this team, and this team has asked about Romeo Doubs. Whether that's true or not, who knows? Okay, now let's talk about what his value is here. Okay, and to start it off, Emilio, I think his market value here, right? According to Spot Track, $11.9 million average annual value. If we had not spent all the draft capital that we have here lately on wide receivers, i.e. Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, you still got Dontavion Wicks for 2 more years, right? You got Jaden Reed for 2 more years. You got Christian Watson you might potentially be looking to extend as well. To me, it kind of feels like you've got to choose one of those two, Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs. I know this. If we could get Christian Watson on a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal, he shows, hey, the knee's healthy, has a decent year, and you can get him back to somewhere around this money and not upwards of $30 million per type thing, man, that sounds like a pretty good go at it there. But when it comes to Romeo Doubs here, just a couple other nuggets I want to get your take. PFF grade-wise, came in the league in 2022, 62.6. 2023 jumped to a 73.6. Last year, he fell back to a 69.7. Again, what you're seeing there is a very steady player, though, Emilio. Even from his rookie year, we always talk about if you grade out in the 60s your rookie year, pretty good indicator you're going to be a solid pro football player. So you kind of got a floor of somewhere in the 63 range, and so far a ceiling in the 73. If he's going to perform at the 73 mark, he's probably worth more, a little closer to like 15 million per.
Right. Especially being consistent with the hands that he has. I mean, that's a wide receiver that you can use in the NFL. That's somebody that you can go to consistently. I think that I like that he's had a steady climb, a little bit of a drop, but he was out for a game or two this past year, had the concussion, fighting through some injuries. So I'm really hoping that, we can see something out of him, even if it's not for the Packers in the future. If we can get something from him this year, he's already kind of approached it that way with helping the young guys getting, helping them in the locker room, working through what they see, progressions, all that. But even if he does it for himself and just get better so that he can make some money for him and his family, long term, any good production for us this year will help him with that and the Packers. So.
Yep. And shout out to Martin in the chat. Said this is a great Packers channel, man. Go Pack Go, from a fellow Tennessee man. LOA. Thanks, Martin. Appreciate you, buddy. Glad to see somebody understands when I speak cornbred around here. You know what I mean?
We love cornbread, but Clayton speaks it a lot.
HTE in the chat says, saw a tweet last night that saw a tweet last night that suggested that Dobbs was a cut candidate, complete and utter monkey-ish. Yeah, in terms of a cut, let's do it this way. Let's explore that for a second. Let's say everybody is healthy in the wide receiver room. Okay. Let's say everybody's healthy. And I know they're not
about Christian a lot. We've been trying to work that cut, Clay. What do you got?
So let's look at it. You've got Mecole Hardman, Jayden Reed, not in no particular order. This is just in order of their PFF grade last year. Okay. Mecole Hardman, Jayden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavion Wicks, Malik Heath, Julian Hicks, Kawan Baker, Isaiah Nayer, Will Shepard, Savion Williams, Matthew Golden, Cornelius Johnson. Let's start with the rookies. They're making this roster, right? Savion Williams, Matthew Golden. There's 2.
Yep.
Dontavion Wicks will make the roster. That's 3. Jayden Reed definitely going to make the roster. That's 4. Romeo Dobbs over Mecole Hardman all day long and twice on Sunday, in my opinion. Right? So there's your 5 if you want to break camp with 5. However, we know there are some injuries right now, okay? So let's put that on the back burner. With the 5 I just mentioned, would you be okay with, to the point, would you be okay with Mecole Hardman and let's say Malik Heath, both of those guys, enough that you would go, let's just cut Romeo Dobbs? I know I wouldn't. I want Romeo to be on this team if there's no draft capital coming back. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we're just cutting him to get rid of him, I don't see it. I don't think it's dead weight because of that connection he has with Jordan. I think that's kind of special what they have. They've been working for years beyond just the, Jordan starting years. So I'm more leaning towards keeping Rome, keeping that consistency and just that timing aspect is some of that stuff that you can't, we wouldn't be able to accumulate the amount of routes they've ran together versus bringing somebody in like Mecole or even Malik. It's not that I don't like Malik, but he doesn't have that timing with Jordan on, hey, I want a back shoulder here, like the little things with Rodgers that he had with his receivers.
I think it's very well said. Jay Cole in the chat said all of these injuries at receiver, I would keep Rome for now. And that's the thing too. Like even if everyone was healthy, Jay, we're sitting there looking at it like, boy, it don't make sense to cut Romeo. It doesn't. Now, if a team comes calling, what would be the draft capital you'd be willing to accept for that? You know what I mean? Because he is in the final year of his deal. He earned the performance escalator, okay, the first tier. So what his cap hit probably would have been somewhere around 1.3 million. Instead, it jumps to 3.5 million this year, okay, because of the fact that I think it's according to stats or snaps, and I believe there's some statistical escalator there as well. I'm not 100% sure, but nonetheless, what would it take? What would it take? And you go, okay, I'll trade Romeo for that, because anyone who says he's not worth a pick, I think that's an exaggeration, simply because look at his market value. His market value is sitting at damn near $12 million. Mm-hmm. So he's got to have some kind of trade value there. So if a team came calling Emilio, what would it take where you go, I'd trade him for that? And where's the cutoff there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say we at least got to double what we got him for. We got him for a 4th. So I would say I need at least a 2nd out of it. And probably another pick as well, a 2 and a 3, or a 2 and 2 4s or something like that. If we get a 1st then I'd probably run it up there. If we're looking at numbers wise, they give us a first and like a second or a third. I mean, that's kind of tough just because. But again, if he's had an injury here and there, but Rome's been pretty consistent. Besides, that little flare up, he's been out there for the team. So I don't know.
Yeah,
where would you be?
I don't see any scenario where they would get a 2. I think it's a stretch to say we would get a potential 3. If someone came knocking for a third rounder, that's where I would be. It's kind of like the whole, if you'll remember the Rasul Douglas trade, right? None of us were happy about the Rasul Douglas trade, but Goody seen it like that's a high enough pick. We got to take that offer. I could see a third rounder being worth it with Romeo if you don't plan on re-signing him. Because if you don't re-sign him, that's the other thing too, though. If a team does go out and sign him, and let's say you're not overly active in free agency, you could potentially get a third-round comp pick for him that way. So when you look at it from that angle, you're getting that extra year of service. However, that comp pick, I think that will fall on the next draft, not 2026, but 2027, I believe is how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something you got to take into consideration. But just theoretically speaking, a third rounder would do it for me. If someone came knocking and said, "Hey, we'll give you a third round pick," I would take that. I don't think a team is going to offer that. I really don't. I think they would probably be more willing to offer like a 5th or a 6th. And at that case, some people would say, "Well, if you're not going to re-sign him, yeah, go ahead and get it." I disagree with that because you're 1 or 2 injuries away from your receiving room really dwindling down quick.
We're already looking at it. We're already seeing we had four wide receivers walking into Colts practice. I mean, we got a couple weeks off coming up here, but if that happens during the regular season, once we get past cutdowns, I mean, we need to be ready to go.
Yeah. So for me, it would definitely be I'm leaning towards keep Dobbs unless you get a third round pick. You get a third round pick, take it. So let's see what Joseph said here. Due to the poor health on our wide receiver room, I wouldn't trade him for a third right now. I can understand that stance too. I can, he says maybe next summer. Yeah. Next summer though, he gone, right? He gone after this year. So,
we'd have to make the decision by week 8, right? By trade deadline.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And this is more,
if not, then it would be comp pick depending on his contract.
The comp pick comes if they sign in free agency. So he has to make it to free agency. You understand what I'm saying? So let's say he plays out this year, he hits free agency, we don't re-sign him, and a team goes out and offers him $15 million per. Now they'll do this whole balance sheet thing of how many players did we pick up as opposed to how many people we lost, and that's where they determine is it worth a third rounder, a 6th rounder, or what have you. So they kind of balance it out. So that's how the comp picks work. That's very vague description, but that's kind of how that sits. So in terms of maybe next summer, Joseph, if you're talking about that, he's going to be gone by then, right? His contract will be up. Now, if you're saying try to sign him to an extension, then trade him, I don't like that because you're going to have to guarantee money to get him under contract, and then you're going to be facing some dead cap in that regard. So
Fishy things here said Dobbs for a serviceable DB would definitely be a win, assuming the DB can play outside corner.
That's interesting. When you say serviceable, I imagine someone that's around his skill set, like around a 70 PFF grade, something like that. If PFF was everything, right? So maybe someone like, I'm trying to think of who would we consider serviceable. Maybe
Coach
another
Dobbs for Greg Newsome,
something like that. I don't know enough about Greg Newsome right now.
Me neither.
The last I checked on Greg Newsome, I was not on that train of going and signing him. I know many Packer fans were, but. Yeah. You got Mike in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says, I'm not trading any wide receiver. We need more, not less. Injuries are a 100 certainty at wide receiver. It's definitely one of the more banged up groups we got right now. And that's why I'm leaning towards, keep him,
Yeah, so Newsome was the cornerback for the Browns, 6 foot 190, came from Northwestern, and he was drafted in 21. They selected him in the first round of 21, but again, we have a first rounder in our linebacker group right now, and it seems like he's kind of hitting the slide a little.
And I was trying to compare like what would we consider serviceable in comparison to the corners that are on our team. Maybe somebody like a Keyshawn Nixon. That's one that I feel like, hey, that would be because I do feel like Romeo Doubs and Keyshawn Nixon are pretty close to being on the same level in terms of at their respective positions, I think Romeo's a little bit better than Keyshawn. But I'm eager to see what Keyshawn does on the outside because I feel like he did play a little bit better on the outside last year.
Right.
So somewhere around that range. But here's the thing, too. If you go do that, Carrington Valentine gets pushed down the depth chart even more, and you're really stopping that progress because Carrington was arguably our best cornerback last year. So that's why I'm more along the lines of third rounder or keep Rome. So, yeah. Anything else on Romeo before we move on to the next player, Emilio?
No, I think that's it.
All right, good deal. Moving along, next on the list is Rasheed Walker. All right, if Jordan Morgan wins the left tackle job, that's a big if. I want to make sure I'm very clear there, right? I still think Rasheed Walker's in the driver's seat to play at left tackle, Jordan Morgan at right guard. That's what I think will happen. Now, if Aaron Banks is banged up and he can't start the season, let's say he starts the season on IR because of the back, have no reason to think he will other than he's been missing practice time. But let's say that happens. Jordan Morgan will be your left guard, and Nacho Libre himself, Sean Ryan, will be your right guard, right? So you still feel pretty good about how that's set up. But with Rasheed Walker here, could the Packers shop Rasheed? His market value, according to Spot Track, $17.8 million average annual value. So just shows you how valuable the left tackle spot is in the NFL. When you look at the PFF grades in 2022, he did not play a single snap to the best of my knowledge. I think he was on the practice squad maybe all year long, or maybe he was on the active roster. You just never seen time. But nonetheless, 2023 is 66.3, 2024 is 68.7. The key thing here that's going to carry the most value, though, when it comes to Sheed, that pass blocking ability, 80.1. And this is what we were talking about with Jordan Morgan and why I think I would be okay with them moving on to Jordan Morgan at left tackle and keep Rasheed as the backup left tackle if Jordan Morgan indeed does beat him out for the left tackle spot. It's because you're seeing a better run blocker in Jordan Morgan than you are Rasheed Walker. Rasheed Walker's run block grade was a 53.6 last year. So that's where his average annual value, market value sits right now, Emilio, $17.8 million. How would you feel about trading Rasheed? Because when you look at this here, he got the same escalator that Romeo did. So his cap hit would have probably been somewhere around 1.1, 1.2 million. Instead, it jumps to 3.4, which is still pennies on the dollar for a starting left tackle. Goody did cook with that 7th round pick, no doubt. When you look at the offensive line room, I included the guards because obviously Jordan Morgan on PFF is listed as a guard, although he can play tackle. He's actually, to me, looks better at left tackle than he ever has at guard so far. But if you trade Rasheed Walker, what would it take for you to give up Rasheed Walker, knowing that if you hold on to him, it's kind of like the Romeo Doubs conversation. When he hits the market, he's going to get a decent contract. We're showing fair market value of 17. He may eclipse 20 on the open market. That's how needy teams are for tackles.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think here, man? When you look at it, would you rather keep him, or the better question is, what would it take to pry him away from you in terms of trade value?
Yeah, I mean, we've already kind of seen having injuries can affect this O-line. We had that happen last year. I think Goody, Matt, and all of them they're gonna try everything to avoid that. Running into the pickle of not having enough linemen and not having enough, linemen that were ready to play. So I think this year you got to run Rasheed out. I don't think there's a point or chance in getting rid of him because of that safety net that he provides, either as a starter or as a really, really solid backup swing. And I would say if they came at me this year, that's definitely got to be if you're in dire tackle need, you can give me a first. I'll take that and we can move on. Realistically, probably a two or three. Mm-hmm. But I could get away with one first or a second and a third. But if you're going to pry him away from me, I need it to be a good deal. I need it to be a combo deal. I need to get something out of it, because if I'm going to lose a starting tackle, and they're going to have to go pay him, right? They're still going to have to do all that. But I would almost hope that maybe they can work a deal with him. But I think 2 picks or a first.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is I don't think – although Pretty Ricky did, if I remember correctly, Pretty Ricky did have a report that they had offered Rasheed Walker a contract, or they were in contract negotiation with Rasheed Walker. Here's the thing with that. In order to make that work in terms of how the contracts are laid out in the offensive line room, right now, who are you paying? You're paying Elton Jenkins, right? You're paying Aaron Banks, you're paying Zach Tom. Those are your big three, okay? If you moved on from Elton Jenkins next year and freed up $20 million in cap space, that completely that kind of balances out with Rashid if indeed you can sign him for, let's say, $15 million per. If you go, you're always going to need a discount if you go to him early and don't let him hit the market, right? So if you could do that and save a net savings of $5 million, per year, essentially, that especially in that first year there for Rasheed Walker's new contract, because you moved on from Elton Jenkins. Now the problem is you got a big hole at center, right? So how does that play in? Because Sean Ryan's contract is up as well, and I don't think anybody's looking at Sean Ryan like he's a starting caliber center. So that's where the question becomes: do you go draft the new center? Do you kick Zach Tom to center and let Anthony Belton continue to work at right tackle? Here's the other thing too with Anthony Belton. There's a reason they're playing him at right tackle so much. Think about that. That's just not, that's just kind of how it shook out. They're training him at right tackle for a reason. Why are they trying so hard to train him at right tackle, right? Knowing that Zach Tom, we just paid him that contract and he's good to go.
Why did Zach Tom's contract not break the bank of a right tackle money?
Maybe behind the scenes it was, hey, we see you as our future, our center of the future. Yeah. If that's the case, you kick Zach Tom over to center, right? Next year, Anthony Belton slides into right tackle. You cut ties with Elton Jenkins, and that's the window for you to extend Rasheed Walker.
Which is why you would need another tackle at tackle skill instead of another guard or a center skill.
Bingo. So that's something that kind of, that kind of makes sense. And again, you just start to connect the dots. If they were just playing Anthony Belton at left tackle a lot and just, hey, he's going to be our backup left tackle, that's all we're focused on, or at guard more so, then I wouldn't feel as confident about that. But it does kind of feel, because I remember that comment that was made that they see Zach Tom as, what was it? It was a pro, I think it was a Pro Bowl right tackle.
All
pro guard, Hall of Fame center is what they were talking about. So, again, we'll see. And listen, tackle, in my opinion, is way more valuable than center. I think we would all agree. I mean, that's what the checkbook suggests, right? But it is worth mentioning that these decisions are made 1-2 years in advance. It's like this Jordan Morgan thing. Them, the competition at left tackle. It's why I still believe Rasheed Walker is going to be your starting left tackle, but they're kind of already setting the stage for Jordan Morgan to step into that next year if you don't bring back Rasheed Walker. So it's probably more so cross training to cover all the bases. So if Elton doesn't return next year, Belton should be ready and trained up to play right tackle, being a second-round pick and having a full year under his belt, training camp, all that stuff. And then if Rasheed Walker doesn't return, Jordan Morgan's your backup plan there. So you're just kind of covering all the bases so you don't paint yourself into a corner. It's kind of what it feels like to me.
Right. So. Yeah, because, why would you go out and get Aaron Banks to play left tackle to play left guard, pay him all that money and not have a plan of who am I going to put next to him? We were walking that Elton Jenkins line. And then you have Zach Tom gets his payment. All right, he's going to be on the team for a while. You got Rasheed, you got Jordan Morgan, you got Belton, young guys, long-term deals. I think that you can work it. Yeah, exactly, Coach. Probably why they went and got Banks also. That's it. Because you think about this O-line, hey, we needed to plan for this from the beginning. You think about the Chiefs. Who do they have at center? Creed Humphrey, right? We missed on Josh Myers. Okay, how can we right that ship? Who's going to touch the ball every play? You want it to be a guy that's kind of heady. And I think either Elton, Zach Tom, anybody like that, let's build it out around him. You got a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and then a seventh-rounder and a fourth-rounder in Sean Ryan that paid off, and then a guy you went and paid in Aaron Banks. I think that's kind of how you set this up for a long-term idea. And then, obviously, once we get Glover off IR, we're going to be cooking with Crisco.
There you go. Rod Jens in the chat says, John Williams is one of our draft choices, 7th round. And here's the thing, too. It feels like John Williams is on the same game plan as Rasheed Walker was. Rasheed Walker didn't play a snap his rookie year, right?
Yeah.
Get him in the building, get him familiar with everything, and then next year you start to implement him a little bit, whether it's tackle, guard, wherever he fits in, that type of thing. And he could be a bust. Chances are he's a bust. Most, 99% of the 7th rounders are a bust. You know what I mean? 99% is probably a little heavy, but you get the point. So, again, I love having these conversations. You'll notice we're talking trade potential, but it's more geared around modeling the roster. And this is what general managers do. This is what Bill Walsh talked about for years in his books. This is what Michael Lombardi, when he was in New England, talked about. You model your roster out years in advance of knowing, all right, it's kind of like the flow chart, Emilio. If this happens, all right, we're going this angle, right? Mm-hmm. If that happens, we're going to, all right, this piece is going to go here. And if it's just fly by the seat of your pants and make emotional decisions, as most fans would, I think we would all agree we're all emotional as fans, then you end up painting yourself into a corner and you get yourself in a pickle.
Because by the time Banks leaves, you'd be right there ready to pay Belton and Morgan and be right on your merry way.
Yeah.
We got Toronto Lonnie in the chat, Clay. Taylor Elgersma is a Canadian GOAT. You got to keep trust, bro.
Let me tell you something, Lonnie. When they signed Elgersma, I rolled my damn eyes. I was like, who is this guy? Like, and I knew people were going to be like, oh, you need to check him out. So I was like, all right, man, we signed him, right? I'm going to do a quick breakdown, threw it up on Patreon. By the end of that article, I'm like, this dude was a dog in Canada, man. He was, you guys need to really take a second and look into his background. And that's what's kind of got me excited. You know, I showed a clip last night of him absolutely ripping a dart into double coverage for a touchdown against Ben Sims, unfortunately, or a touchdown to Ben Sims. Unfortunately, it didn't count because of a holding call. But yeah, I'm telling you, he's got a strong arm. He's got what you want in a pro quarterback. He's got the mobility because he ran a lot in Canada as well. It was I hope I'm saying this right. Laurier, I think is how you say it. That where he played. I mean, the numbers he put up was just absolutely insane.
And isn't the field a little bit wider? Hashes are either a little smaller, or a little wider, or something like that.
Yeah, the rules are different, I'm pretty sure. So that's the other thing is like people were like, okay, you know, he's got to take time to learn the American game and this and that. But boy, oh boy, it seems like he really is.
Look at that cornbread pronunciation. Come on now, get you some.
Let's go. I'm a big colonial America, Revolutionary War history nerd. So there was a whole lot of that French pronunciation, you know, with your Lafayette's and all those guys. So, but anyway, let's move it along here, man. Anything else you got on offensive line, Amelia? I think we covered it pretty good, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think actually one more comment, and then we'll move right here. Drew D says, could Lecitus Smith be a reasonable center backup if Jenkins gets hurt? I have no reason to think that, Drew. But it could be. I don't know much about Lecitus, to be honest with you. What about you, Emilio? Anything there? Any reason to think he could? Because to me, it feels like right now it's Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan, and then a pretty big drop off to Jacob Monk. And Jacob Monk, guys, I hate to be negative toward a player. You know how I try to fan on this particular program, but it's not looking good for Jacob Monk. It just hasn't taken. And watching the tape, I wanted to find something positive. Go, here's a good rep. He got his ass kicked in both those games. It was hard to watch. And they team cap 3 or 4 time team captain at Duke. Teammates love him. Coaching staff loved him. Bringing him in. You bring in a high quality young man like that, but it just hasn't. Maybe he'll get it. Maybe he'll get it by next year, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I still think Monk probably is the third on the depth chart. I think the third in their hearts is Tom to be that backup if we really ever need to.
Yeah. Joseph says, how many years really is the Banks contract again, Clay? Let me see if I won't put it on the screen.
I want to say while you're digging, I could have swore it was a 4-year, most likely a 2. And, you know, we could run it to 3 years if needed, which would get us into Jordan Morgan's 5th-year option and would take us over to Belton's 4th year at that point, being a second-round pick.
Yeah. So I don't truly understand the potential outs that they throw out there on Spot Track. I kind of feel like that's the break-even year. Usually you get that after the 2nd or 3rd year. In his particular contract with Aaron Banks, here's how it lays out, okay? You know, you hear – this is what you heard on the headlines, okay? 4 years, $77 million with a $27 million signing bonus. You go, oh my God, that's a huge deal, right? Look at the structure and look at the actual guarantee. His cap hit this year is $9 million. Next year, it jumps to $24.8 million. The dead cap next year, however, is only $20.2 million. So the dead cap this year is a true $27 million. What that says is you could move on before next year and free up $4 million in cap. You're going to eat $20 million in dead cap. I don't think that's their plan. They're showing you with the potential out. This is the way I understand Spot Track, is that's the year where you can kind of get out and not go in the hole on the contract, if that makes sense. You can kind of free up some cap space. So with that being said, I originally said it's a 4-year deal. It's really a 2-year deal. And the reason I said that is because when you get to 2027, he turns 30 years old. His cap hit is $22.2 million, and the dead cap attached is only $13.5 million. So you're going to free up, what is that, roughly $8 million, around $8 million, maybe a little less in cap space by moving on in 2027. So that's how that specific contract shakes out. So, yeah, I would call it a 4-year deal that's really a 2, Emilio, which is I think what you remember me saying before. Spot Track is simply saying that you can get out of it and free up roughly $4 million in cap space after just 1 year. So hopefully that answers your question there, Joseph. You get anything on that, Emilio?
No, and that's just another possibility. I mean, now that we have him, now that you set a baseline, we can move from there. But until then, you didn't know. You'd much rather have something that you knew what you're going into the season with, rather than have another hole that you need to fill as you're trying to shuffle this line, prepping for 2 years down the road.
Right. Yeah, completely agree. All right, man, let's move it along. Quay Walker, linebacker. The Packers chose not to pick up Quay's 5th-year option, but that doesn't mean they aren't interested in re-signing him to a more palatable extension, especially after the coaching staff insinuated Quay would be wearing the green dot again this year. And obviously, Goody said they have a long-term plan for him. They want him to be in the long-term plan. Now,
yes,
we want every player on this roster to be in the long-term plan at the right price. Quay may look at the price they're talking about and go, "You've lost your damn mind. Well, you know how fast I run at 40? I'm hitting the market." That could be the case. So with that being said, though, I think we would all agree he hasn't lived up to the first-round expectation. And listen, comparing these players within the same scheme is what I like to do. Look at Edgerrin Cooper, 2nd-round pick. Look how he performed, and look at Quay, right? They're night and day. Edgerrin Cooper played like a first-round pick. Quay has not lived up to that yet. I think he's a dog. I think he's an athletic freak. I think when he gets to the ball carrier, he brings the thump, which I love. I think he can cover the seam in that Tampa 2 that Jeff Hafley liked to run a lot last year.
Mm-hmm.
However, read and recognition underneath, kind of slow to break to the underneath stuff, as where Edgerrin Cooper just plays like a demon. Javon Bullard plays like a demon in that regard. You get Javon Bullard covering vertical, he struggled immensely at that. And I know I'm comparing safety/slot corner to linebacker here, but this is just the point and an example of you put players in a position to do what they do well. Quay Walker in the mock, covering the seam in a Tampa 2, I put him up against anybody in the league. He's got the height. He's got the athleticism. He's got the situational awareness that he reads that pretty darn good, right? But everything underneath is like, it's just not a complete linebacker, in my opinion. Edgerrin Cooper does it all. We've seen him mug the A-gap, cover the deep third middle in a Tampa 2, break the pass up, hurt Christian Kirk on the same play. We've seen him pick passes off underneath. We've seen him attacking the flat. We've seen him blitz the whole 9 yards. So PFF grades for Quay, 52, 58, 57. I think this is who he is, Emilio. When you look at it, run defense grade 64, pass rush grade 65. If you remove the pass rush grade, it's probably going to drop significantly in the overall grade. So his defensive grade's already at 57.2, but his coverage was a 50.6. People are probably saying, Clayton, if he covers the seam so well, why is his cover grade so low? He's not covering the seam that often. I'm saying when they ask him to do it, that's what he does well. But this scheme wants you to really attack underneath on the curl flat combos, on the different route combinations underneath, the drive concepts where you got to know they're going to throw a shallow cross or a drag route right in front of my face in the 2, but I've got to have the awareness to know they're probably bringing a backside dig. So right. I got to bite on that enough, pass it off, and have the awareness and the quick reaction to get depth to cover the dig behind me too. Those are the things he struggles with. So it's more times than not, I guess what I'm trying to say, Emilio, that he's not covering the seam. That's just what he does well in coverage.
Right. Yeah, they were talking about that on Move the Sticks, was taking the cheese. They're working the underneath, and it's something that you're going to want to kind of give to the offense if that's how you're setting up your defense. Give them those underneaths, and then if they're chipping away at you all game running that underneath play, and you bite on it that one time, that dig's coming in behind your ear, man, and they're gonna bust one on you, and that's where it's like that's where you catch yourself in a pickle. But I do think that, like you said, Quay can cover vertically if he needs to. He can make that decision. He can get north and south. I'm happy that he's been in, he's been in the leadership role at the mic there, calling the plays for multiple years now. I think that's going to play, an important role. He's already finishing the sentences for Hafley, all that stuff. So, I mean, I still like Quay a lot. I know he hasn't shown it PFF wise and grade wise. I think we can get a 65, 70 out of him, hopefully pretty consistently. But he's almost always out there. He's really the heartbeat of the defense, and having that speed in the middle is so key for the speed of a defense.
Yeah, and I'm not to the point where I'm saying, hey, let's trade him. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm saying at all. We're kind of exploring, okay, is he going to really be back? Is the number going to match? I've seen something in the chat here. Well, let me hit this real quick. Not So Cool says, wait, Quay rejected the fifth-year option? No, the Packers chose not to pick it up. The player cannot reject the fifth-year option. It's in the CBA. They have to accept it. They can't say, no, I'm not playing under the fifth year. I mean, they can, but they're not going to play football, and the rights to that player is just going to carry over the next year to the same team. So that's why nobody has done it. But, yeah, the Packers did not pick it up. I want to check on this Harrison Smith thing. Did you see that? Yeah. Let me see here. Harrison.
Alan Gomes said Vikings just gave away Harrison Phillips. Kwesi that's terrible GM.
Was it Phillips? Harrison Phillips? Is that what it was?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, I thought it was Smith. My bad.
Harrison Phillips.
Who's Phillips? Let's see who that is. Just trying to check real quick. This is a good podcast over here. Boy.
There we go. I couldn't find it, man. I don't understand how Tim runs the board so fast.
Oh, I know it, dude. He's quick. I hate this trade. Minnesota hates it. The fans hate it, it looks like. The Vikings are sending veteran nose tackle Harrison Phillips to the Jets for a 26 sixth-round draft pick and a swap of 27s. So, yeah, that's another example of, do you value a sixth-round pick that much? Me no like you that. You know what I mean? So, thank you for the update there, Alan. You're the man, bub. All right, so with Quay, again, that's his PFF grades. When you look at the contract, let's see, 2025, $4.4 million. Obviously, the club declined the fifth-year option. And the reason they did, guys, is because with the fifth-year option, outside linebacker in a 34 defense, which is an edge rusher, they get grouped in with all linebackers. Their numbers are crazy, crazy higher than stack backers. So that drives that average up. That's why that number is at 14.7. If you took just true stack backers, and let's say the number was around 8 million, something like, I'm just kind of throwing a number out there, Packers probably would have picked that up. They probably would have said, okay, we'll take that fifth-year option. Because I think Quay might warrant at least that much with, obviously a little bit more guaranteed money on the open market because of the athleticism, of course. So when you look at the linebacker room, Emilio, let's see if we can paint a picture where we would be okay with departing of Quay Walker. I know you kind of already said, no, I wouldn't do it, but let's look at it here. Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Christian Welch, Isaiah Simmons, Jared Bartlett, and Jamin Dumas-Johnson. Listen, Isaiah Simmons, there's still some time left, but it's not looking good, guys. He's played exactly how his PFF grade has said he's played throughout his career. He's played like that in the preseason. I personally believe that. So I kind of feel like he might make the practice squad, or he's going to be at the very bottom of the roster. I don't think he's no longer competing for a starting job. I think your starting three are going to be Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker, and Isaiah McDuffie. Tyron Hopper might have something to say about that. So after you look at the linebacker room here, Emilio, what would it take for you to part ways with Quay Walker? What would you be willing to go, okay, yeah, we'll take that pick and move on from Quay? Because I'm leaning into a second or a first for me personally, man. I mean, it's because, Tyron Hopper, Edgerrin Cooper, and Isaiah McDuffie, I don't like that near as much as I like Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper, and Quay Walker. You know what I mean? And your base fourth, of course.
Yeah, so you're saying to pull Quay away from me? What would it take? Yeah. Again, I mean, we only got to see one start of both of them out there. Obviously, they played together. Obviously, they had reps together. One game started with both of them out there, and that was the playoff game. So, I forgot. I think it was Mike and Wes on their pod. They were talking, if it was back in the day, a couple years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, Tyron Hopper would be a starting linebacker. They would have drafted him and put him right in there. But we have Quay. It's kind of the long-term play of getting Hopper ready. Even if you get Quay another year or two, if you want to, set a 3-year deal or 4-year deal, and you can be out of it in 2, you get Hopper, another year or two, make sure you can pay him. If you like it, good. We're on the move. But it's got to be, like you said. I've been at a second or a third this whole time. But then we go over this Vikings trade. Harrison Phillips goes for a 6th round pick and a 7th round swap. So we might be a little high on our guys, but I would rather be asking over MSRP for our players and getting it back, long term, rather than shelling them out for a little bit less just to get him off the team. I think the speed and what he brings outweighs the benefits of him not being here.
And listen, Tyron Hopper, I know this is kind of recency bias. He played really, really well in the first 2 preseason games. He's grading out in the 80s now, and it's just 2 preseason games. I got you. But now is the time if he plays well again this week and he finishes camp healthy, now's the time to get his ass into the lineup to see what you got in this 3rd round pick. I'm not saying he should start over Quay, but he needs to be that 3rd backer in our base 4-3. We need to see what we got in Tyron Hopper, and that'll help make a decision on how aggressive you want to be with the Quay Walker extension, because that might be the combo we're looking for in our nickel 4-2-5, Emilio. It might be Edgerrin Cooper and Tyron Hopper. Might be the 2 guys you want in that nickel 4-2-5. I just feel like Tyron Hopper is starting to show enough now to where now's the time. Let's put more on his plate. And you see, last year he only played 18 snaps, right? But of course he was banged up. This preseason he's played a ton of snaps and he's looked the part. And I know people, it's just preseason, it's backups. It's not backups, guys. Like that, people were saying that about our offense last week. Man, this offense played like garbage against backups. No, our offense that we put out there this week, overall, what was it, 28 inactive Packers that were healthy scratches that we said we're not playing our starters. That was our 2nd-team offense, 2nd-team defense going up against the starters of the Colts. So just want to put that out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there about that just cracked me up. So,
and Richardson was out in the 2nd quarter. Jonathan Taylor was out there. I saw him get a run or 2. So, it's not –
so, again,
scrubs.
Yeah, I want to keep Quay this year. I think it's worth it to let him play it out. That's another one that if you don't get an extension done, he hits the market and someone outbids you. Think of these are piling up now, Emilio. Rasheed Walker, Quay Walker, Romeo Dobbs. Those 3 right there going to get you a ton of comp picks back.
Christian Watson.
Comp picks. Yeah, and I hope they do get something done with Watson once he proves that the knee's good to go.
We'll have to go back through the draft picks like we did. What was it, last year when we went back through the previous years, seeing if they were still on there? I like that. We need to go back through and check on that at the end of this year.
I've already been kind of going back through our draft board from this past draft and the quarterbacks that are looking really good in preseason, and the ones that we didn't like here in the past, like Anthony Richardson. I caught a lot of hell because I was like, I don't see it with Anthony Richardson. He's not playing much football. To me, he couldn't hit a bull in the ass with a mop with his accuracy. And this is the way I remember presenting it on this particular show. When I did that quarterback breakdown, he was high on our draft board, but I make it very clear, our draft board is not a reflection of my personal opinion. That's professionals across the industry that I compile all the information, put it in, and that's how we come up with our draft board. When I broke the quarterbacks down, because a listener had asked me to do it, I looked at Anthony Richardson and I said, the 4 key things, right? Pre-snap read, I don't see it. Post-snap read, I don't see it. Accuracy, I darn sure don't see it. And quick release was decent, but the only thing with the quick release is he didn't play with anticipation at Florida. He didn't drop back, 3-step drop, let that thing rip. Right. It was one read, let me try to run with the ball. And I always tell people in that particular type of breakdown, I say, if you remove that quarterback's ability to scramble, he has to stay in the pocket. He all of a sudden has Peyton Manning's speed. What kind of quarterback is he? And if you can't say, I think he's okay. If you say, oh, he'd be bad, then he's not a quarterback. Stop trying to kid yourself.
Pure runner archetype, right, Clay? I got myself into a pickle of that in the dynasty there. And he's good. Trust me, he's fast. He's got 93 speed. You try to get outside the pocket and throw one ball on the run, man. That thing's going into the second row.
Talked yourself into it.
See?